Hello, my name is Father Thomas Haan. I'm a priest serving in the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana, currently as pastor at St. Louis de Montfort Catholic Church and School in Fishers, Indiana. Well, these days there aren't too many television shows or movies coming out of Hollywood that actually encourage the soul or to holiness. And with that in mind, we probably should be very judicious about what we expose our hearts and minds to and do our research. But that's not exactly my point today. My point is that I recently watched a miniseries that was an exception to that rule. It's called The Chosen. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you've even watched it yourself, but it's a depiction of the early days of Jesus' public ministry. It uses a lot of creativity to fill in some gaps, but it never does contradict the gospel narrative. One episode in particular got me hooked, and it was depicting Luke chapter 5. In it, Simon, the fisherman, meets Jesus. In this version of events, Simon is in some serious financial trouble. Because of his spending habits and some gambling habits, he owes a lot of people a lot of money, including the Roman government, some taxes. He knows that if he doesn't pay up, he will lose his home, his boat, and probably be thrown in prison. To catch up on these debts, he begins breaking the Sabbath laws. One night he fesses up to his wife about this situation, and she is none too pleased, not only because of his lying and selfishness, but because of his sin of breaking the Sabbath. She's ready to leave him. So in desperation, he heads out to the Sea of Galilee, begins to fish all night with no success. By morning, he actually sees Jesus on the shoreline teaching, and Jesus gets in his boat, tells him to put out his net for a catch. Peter is skeptical and says, "We've worked hard all night long, but at your command, I'll put out the net." He catches so many fish, the net begins to tear, his boat nearly sinks. This is amazing. Because of the fish, Simon Peter can pay his debts. He's been saved. Turning to Jesus, he falls at his feet, admits his sinfulness. In an instant, he realized everything he has, his boat, his home, his freedom, his wife, everything has been gifted to him from Jesus. Peter would spend the rest of his life trying to return the favor to Jesus, who was so good to him. Later in Luke's Gospel, chapter 17, Jesus encounters 10 lepers. He tells them to go show themselves to a priest. They obey, and they head into town. On the way, they are healed, but only one, a Samaritan, comes back to thank Jesus. He falls at his feet and thanks him. The apostles presumably were witnesses to this miracle, and I wonder if Simon Peter saw himself in that healed leper. He too had fell at the feet of Jesus to give him thanks. And like Simon, I wonder if that healed leper spent the rest of his life trying to return the favor. It's important for us to realize that everything we have, our life, our faith, our family, our school, our talents, every opportunity, it's all an undeserved gift from God. And the only proper response to that goodness is to fall at the feet of Jesus in gratitude. So how do we do that? How do we live the virtue of gratitude? Well, the first way we can thank God is to obey his commands. He has saved us and given us our life back, and he tells us how we ought to live that life in relationship with him. I recently spoke to a parishioner who works as an EMT. He goes on calls anytime there is a drug overdose, and those numbers are rising. There was one such case that broke his heart. Through medication and medical techniques, he actually brought a man back from the brink of death. He saved his life, and they instructed the man, put away the drugs, clean up your life. A week later, they got a call again. Same man had overdosed again, and this time he had died. My parishioner had saved the man's life just 1 week before, and he knows that it's an addiction, but it just didn't seem like the man was grateful for the gift of life he had just been given the week before. Indeed, to obey is an act of gratitude. That includes our relationship with God. And that also includes the commandment to keep holy the Sabbath. Yes, going to Mass every Sunday and every holy day of obligation is an act of obedience, but it's also an act of gratitude. The word Eucharistia in Greek, it means thanksgiving. That's precisely how God has told us he wants to be thanked. Simon obeyed the command to put out his net in the boat, and it worked for him, the leper obeyed the command to go and show himself to the priest, and it worked out for him. I think if we obey in gratitude, things will work out for us too. The time we have, the talents we have, our life, everything, our resources, it's all a gift from Jesus. We should find ways to return the favor by giving some of our time to Jesus, our talents, offer it to him. Yes, even to tithe is an act of gratitude to God. What are some other ways we can show Jesus our gratitude and thanks? How can we fall at his feet? What are some ways we can live this virtue of gratitude towards the other people in our life who are so good to us? When we receive compliments or win a game or achieve one of our goals, are we quick to take all the credit, or are we quick to give God the credit? As far as TV shows go, The Chosen was an exception, and I recommend it. And in this world of narcissism and egotism and showboating, it's time for us to be an exception. Instead, let's live the virtue of gratitude, living our lives attempting to return the favor to Jesus, who has given us everything. Remember, virtue equals strength.